Picture a world where a single family held the power to shape an entire nation's religion, politics, and culture. In the grand tapestry of history, few dynasties have left such an indelible mark as the Tudors of England. Behind the gleaming crowns and opulent palace walls lay a web of dark secrets, brutal betrayals, and power struggles that threatened to tear England apart at its very seams. This was no ordinary royal family. The Tudors were masters of intrigue, architects of religious revolution, and shapers of a cultural renaissance that would echo through the centuries. What if I told you that this dynasty's decisions continue to influence our world today? That the choices made in their royal courts still ripple through time, affecting the very fabric of modern society? The Tudor saga isn't merely a tale of monarchs and marriages. It's a story of how one family's personal desires and political ambitions fundamentally altered the course of Western civilization. Would you believe that a king's matters of the heart would lead to a religious schism that would forever change England's relationship with faith? That a queen's refusal to marry would spark a golden age of art, literature, and maritime dominance? The Tudor dynasty stands as a testament to how personal passions can reshape empires, how family drama can rewrite religious doctrine, and how the hunger for power can birth new worlds from the ashes of the old. Their story is one of love and betrayal, of faith and heresy, of triumph and tragedy, all playing out on the grand stage of Renaissance England. Are you ready to uncover how one family's reign transformed a medieval kingdom into the foundation of a global empire? To understand how a king's desire for a male heir shattered centuries of religious tradition? To witness how a queen's strategic mind and iron will forge a nation's identity that would endure for centuries to come? This is the story of the Tudors, where personal ambition collided with divine authority, where love trumped politics, and where the decisions made in royal bedchambers changed the fate of millions. Let's delve into this extraordinary chapter of history, where the personal became political, and where one family's choices still echo in the halls of power today. The year is 1485, and the air above Bosworth Field hangs heavy with the metallic scent of warfare. Through the morning mist, the sounds of clashing steel and battle cries give way to the triumphant roar of victory. Henry Tudor, a man whose claim to the throne hung by the slenderest of threads, stands victorious over the fallen body of Richard III, the last Plantagenet king. As Richard's crown is lifted from a thorny bush and placed upon Henry's head, England holds its breath, witnessing the birth of a new era. The bloody War of the Roses, which had torn the nation apart for 3 decades, finally draws its last breath on this August morning. The White Rose of York and the Red Rose of Lancaster would merge into the Tudor Rose, a symbol of unity that would come to represent so much more than mere peace between warring houses. Yet what appeared to be the dawn of tranquility would prove to be merely the opening act of one of history's most dramatic periods. As the dust settled on Bosworth Field, none could have predicted the seismic changes that lay ahead. The Tudor dynasty would not merely rule England, they would reimagine it. Through marriages and executions, through religious upheaval and cultural revolution, through exploration and innovation, they would forge a new kind of kingdom. Henry Tudor's victory was just the beginning. In the decades to come, his descendants would prove that winning a crown through combat was one thing, but maintaining power through generations required a delicate balance of force and finesse, of fear and adoration. The Tudors would master this art, writing their story in glory, passion, and blood. They understood a fundamental truth that would define their dynasty. To truly rule, one must not only command armies but capture imaginations, not only win battles but win hearts. And in this, perhaps more than anything else, the Tudors would prove themselves true masters of the Game of Thrones. Curious to know how this dynasty shaped modern England? Subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles now. Leave a like and ring the bell for more fascinating stories like this. At the heart of the Tudor saga stands a remarkable cast of characters, each one a complex tapestry of ambition, fear, and human frailty. Henry VII emerges as the master strategist, a man forged in exile and tempered by caution. Often overlooked in favor of his more flamboyant successors, this first Tudor king was the architect of stability, wielding marriage as a weapon and diplomacy as armor. His union with Elizabeth of York was more than a marriage. It was a masterpiece of political engineering that healed a nation's wounds. Behind his calculating exterior lay a man haunted by insecurity, obsessively counting his gold and forever watching for threats to his hard-won crown. His son, Henry VIII, strode onto history's stage as the Renaissance ideal, athletic, educated, and charismatic. But time would transform this golden prince into one of history's most compelling and controversial monarchs. His passions ruled his politics, and his desires reshaped his realm. This was a man who wrote love letters to Anne Boleyn while still married to Catherine of Aragon, who broke with Rome for love and then broke hearts for power. Each of his 6 wives tells a different story: Catherine of Aragon's stubborn dignity, and Boleyn's tragic ambition, Jane Seymour's quiet triumph, and of Clevy's practical survival, Catherine Howard's youthful folly, and Catherine Parr's intellectual strength. Rising above them all stands Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, perhaps the most complex Tudor of all. A woman who turned her greatest perceived weakness, her gender, into unprecedented strength. Behind her carefully crafted image as Gloriana, the fairy queen, was a shrewd politician who learned from childhood that love was a luxury she couldn't afford. She played potential suitors against each other while maintaining her independence, created a cult of personality that unified her people, and turned prevarication into an art form. Yet in private moments, she revealed herself as her father's daughter, quick to anger, hungry for flattery, and plagued by indecision. These weren't just sovereigns, they were human beings grappling with impossible choices. Henry VII's constant vigilance masked a deep-seated fear of losing everything he had gained. Henry VIII's bombastic confidence concealed a desperate need for validation and a male heir. Elizabeth's glittering exterior sheltered a woman who had seen her mother beheaded and learned early that survival often meant solitude. Together, they form a dynasty of contradictions, ruthless yet charismatic, pious yet pragmatic, loving yet lethal. Their personal struggles, desires, and fears shaped not just their own lives but the very fabric of English society, proving that sometimes the most profound changes in history stem from the most human of motivations. Step into Tudor England, where majestic castles pierce the misty skyline, their imposing stone walls standing as silent witnesses to a realm in transformation. The narrow, cobblestone streets of London teem with life, where market vendors hawk their wares beneath colorful wooden shop signs that creak in the wind. The sweet aroma of freshly baked bread wafts from bakeries, mingling with the acrid smell of coal smoke from countless chimneys and the pungent odors of open sewers. In these streets, town criers' voices boom across marketplaces, announcing royal proclamations that would reshape the nation's destiny. The landscape is dotted with churches that now answer to the king rather than Rome, their ancient spires reaching skyward while inside, walls once adorned with Catholic imagery stand whitewashed and austere. Gothic architecture gradually gives way to the symmetry and grandeur of Renaissance design, as Hampton Court Palace exemplifies with its red brick magnificence and ornate chimneys. In great halls across the land, elaborate tapestries depict scenes of hunt and history, while drafty corridors echo with the whispers of courtiers plotting their next political move. At court, life unfolds in a dazzling spectacle of wealth and power. Ladies sweep through palace corridors in French farthingales and ruffs of Flemish lace, their silk gowns rustling against rush-strewn floors. Courtiers sport doublets of imported velvet and carry jeweled daggers at their waists. The great halls resound with the strains of musicians playing viols and lutes, while guests feast on peacock dressed in its own feathers and march pane crafted to resemble castles. Yet beyond the palace walls, a different England exists. In rural villages, thatched-roof cottages huddle together, their inhabitants rising with the sun to work the fields. The air here carries the earthy scent of livestock and wood smoke from cooking fires. Peasant women in homespun will tend to vegetable gardens while their husbands labor in the fields, their lives marked by the steady rhythm of planting and harvest. The local alehouse serves as the heart of community life, where people gather to share news and ale, their conversations colored by concerns about changing times and religious upheaval. The contrast between court and country grows starker as the Tudor age progresses. While courtiers dance the pavane in gilt-edged shoes, rural folk perform country dances on village greens. As nobles feast on exotic spices and sugared delicacies, peasants sustain themselves on pottage and brown bread. Yet all are bound together in a society experiencing profound change, where old certainties crumble like monastery walls, and new ideas spread as quickly as the printing press can produce them. In town and country alike, the rhythm of life follows the toll of church bells, though now they ring for Protestant services where Catholic masses once sounded. Markets bustle with traders selling goods from distant lands, silks from Italy, spices from the East, and newfound treasures from the Americas. The air is thick with possibility and peril, as merchants grow wealthy from trade while others struggle with enclosure and inflation. This is Tudor England, a realm where medieval traditions clash with Renaissance innovations, where religious devotion meets political pragmatism, and where the decisions of a single family ripple through every layer of society, from the highest spire of Hampton Court to the humblest village church. The Tudor saga unfolds like a masterfully crafted drama, beginning in the blood-soaked fields of medieval England, where the War of the Roses tore the nation apart. This devastating civil conflict between the houses of York and Lancaster decimated the old nobility, setting the stage for a new dynasty's rise. For 30 years, England suffered through a brutal power struggle that would only end when Henry Tudor, a relatively obscure Welsh nobleman, seized his destiny on Bosworth Field in 1485. Henry VII's ascension marked more than just another change of crown. It heralded the birth of a new kind of monarchy. Ascending to the throne through conquest and strategic marriage to Elizabeth of York, he wove together the red and white roses into a single Tudor rose, symbolizing a hard-won peace. His reign was marked by careful consolidation of power, financial prudence, and diplomatic maneuvering. While not as glamorous as his successors, his steady hand laid the foundation for the Tudor dynasty's future grandeur. The narrative takes a dramatic turn with Henry VIII's accession in 1509. Initially celebrated as the perfect Renaissance prince, handsome, educated, and athletic, his reign would become defined by an unprecedented religious revolution. His desperate quest for a male heir, combined with his passion for Anne Boleyn, led to the momentous break with Rome in 1534. This wasn't merely a change in religious leadership, it was a fundamental restructuring of English society. Monasteries were dissolved, ancient traditions were overturned, and the very nature of English Christianity was transformed. Through 6 marriages, multiple executions, and religious upheaval, Henry VIII's personal life became inextricably intertwined with national policy. The dissolution of the monasteries redistributed vast wealth and land, creating a new class of landed gentry, while simultaneously destroying centuries of religious tradition. His reign was marked by contradiction, a defender of the faith who broke with Rome, a Renaissance humanist who executed those who opposed him, a loving father who disinherited his daughters. After the brief reigns of Edward VI and Mary I, which saw England swing between extreme Protestantism and Catholic restoration, Elizabeth I emerged as the dynasty's crowning achievement. Taking the throne in 1558, she inherited a kingdom riven by religious discord, threatened by powerful foreign enemies, and struggling with economic instability. Through careful political maneuvering, she transformed these challenges into opportunities. Elizabeth's reign became England's golden age. She established a moderate religious settlement that, while not pleasing everyone, provided a workable compromise. Under her leadership, English sea power grew to challenge Spanish dominance, culminating in the decisive victory over the Spanish Armada in 1588. She fostered a cultural renaissance that produced Shakespeare, Marlowe, and a flowering of English literature unprecedented in its brilliance. Yet the personal cost of Elizabeth's success was evident in her carefully cultivated image as the Virgin Queen. Having witnessed the dangers of marriage and succession through her father's marriages and her sister's unpopular Spanish match, she chose to wed herself to England instead. This decision, while creating its own problems of succession, allowed her to use the prospect of marriage as a diplomatic tool, playing potential suitors against each other while maintaining England's independence. The Tudor narrative concludes with Elizabeth's death in 1603, marking the end of a dynasty that had transformed England from a medieval kingdom into a nascent world power. During their 118-year reign, the Tudors had revolutionized English government, reformed the church, established a formidable navy, and presided over a cultural golden age. They had also demonstrated how personal decisions at the highest level of power could reshape the destiny of nations. The enduring legacy of the Tudor dynasty lies not just in their political achievements, but in how they fundamentally altered the relationship between crown, church, and people. Their story remains compelling because it demonstrates how individual choices, whether Henry VIII's desire for a son or Elizabeth's decision to remain unmarried, can have consequences that echo through centuries of history. Now that you know how this dynasty began, what do you think motivated these controversial decisions? Leave your comment and stay tuned for the next chapter of this fascinating story. The Tudor era left behind a rich tapestry of historical evidence that allows us to piece together this remarkable period with extraordinary detail. At the heart of this documentation lies the extensive collection of state papers, personal correspondence, and diplomatic dispatches that illuminate the inner workings of the Tudor court. Henry VIII's love letters to Anne Boleyn stand as perhaps the most intimate royal documents ever preserved, revealing a passionate man consumed by desire. In these carefully preserved missives, we see the king's evolution from ardent suitor to desperate monarch, his words flowing from declarations of undying love to increasingly frustrated demands for papal approval of his divorce. The diplomatic archives of European courts provide a fascinating external perspective on Tudor England. Venetian ambassadors, known for their detailed reports, left meticulous descriptions of the Tudor court, offering invaluable insights into everything from royal ceremonies to the personal appearances and temperaments of the monarchs. Spanish ambassador Eustace Chapuis's dispatches during Henry VIII's reign provide particularly detailed accounts of court intrigue, though his obvious sympathy for Catherine of Aragon colors his perspective. Religious upheaval during this period generated an enormous volume of documentation. The Articles of Faith, the Book of Common Prayer, and various acts of Parliament trace the evolution of the English Reformation. Parish records reveal the complex reality of religious change at the local level, showing how communities adapted to, resisted, or embraced new forms of worship. The inventories of dissolved monasteries provide detailed insights into the wealth and possessions of religious houses before their destruction, while records of religious persecution document the human cost of religious change. Visual evidence from the Tudor period is equally revealing. Hans Holbein the Younger's portraits capture the Tudor court with remarkable precision, from his iconic image of Henry VIII projecting power and authority to his subtle portrayal of Thomas Cromwell. The Armada portrait of Elizabeth I serves as a masterpiece of political propaganda, laden with symbolic references to England's maritime triumph over Spain. Even the architectural evidence of Tudor power survives in structures like Hampton Court Palace, whose very design reflects the complex hierarchy of Tudor court life. Maritime expansion under the Tudors is documented through ships' logs, navigation charts, and the records of trading companies. The papers of the Muscovy Company and the early East India Company reveal England's growing commercial ambitions, while maps from the period show an expanding understanding of the world. Pirates' trial records and naval accounting books provide insights into the development of English sea power. Court entertainment is recorded in household accounts that detail everything from masked performances to feast menus. The Revels office accounts document the rise of professional theater, including payments to acting companies and playwrights. While Shakespeare's plays were written slightly later, they capture the zeitgeist of Elizabethan England, with works like Henry VIII offering a dramatized perspective on earlier Tudor history. Personal accounts provide intimate glimpses of Tudor life. The Diary of Edward VI reveals a precocious young king's education and worldview. Elizabeth I's translations and prayers offer rare insights into her private thoughts, while her speeches, carefully preserved, demonstrate her masterful command of public rhetoric. The private papers of courtiers like William Cecil provide behind-the-scenes views of government operations. Archaeological evidence continues to enhance our understanding of the period. Excavations of Tudor manor houses, shipwrecks like the Mary Rose, and urban sites have yielded thousands of artifacts that illuminate daily life across social classes. These findings range from elaborate courtly accessories to humble household items, each telling its own story about life in Tudor England. Financial records provide another crucial window into the period. The records of the Exchequer detail government income and expenditure, while household accounts of noble families reveal patterns of consumption and display. Henry VII's careful financial management is documented in his famous chamber books, while the costs of Henry VIII's extravagance and Elizabeth's more moderate court are preserved in meticulous detail. Together, these diverse sources create a remarkably complete picture of Tudor England. From grand state occasions to intimate personal moments, from international diplomacy to local parish life, the surviving documentation allows us to reconstruct this pivotal period in English history with extraordinary clarity. While gaps in our knowledge remain, the wealth of Tudor evidence continues to yield new insights as historians apply new methods and perspectives to these rich historical sources. The Tudor dynasty's impact on England transcends mere historical significance, fundamentally reshaping the nation's identity and trajectory in ways that reverberate through the centuries. Henry VIII's momentous decision to break with Rome in 1534 represented more than a personal solution to his matrimonial troubles. It marked the birth of English nationalism and religious independence. This seismic shift established England as a sovereign nation-state, free from papal authority, with the monarch as the supreme head of the church. The resulting transformation touched every aspect of English society, from the grandest cathedral to the humblest parish church. The dissolution of the monasteries, while traumatic, catalyzed profound economic and social changes. The redistribution of church lands created a new class of wealthy landowners, altering the medieval social structure and establishing a powerful gentry class that would influence English politics for centuries. The destruction of monasteries, which had previously provided healthcare, education, and charity, forced the development of new social institutions and ultimately led to more direct state involvement in public welfare. Under Elizabeth I, England experienced a remarkable cultural flowering that produced enduring contributions to world civilization. The Elizabethan theatre, exemplified by Shakespeare and Marlowe, created a dramatic tradition that continues to influence global culture. This theatrical renaissance wasn't merely entertainment. It helped forge a distinct English cultural identity and provided a medium for exploring complex social and political ideas. The development of the Royal Navy under the Tudors laid the foundation for British maritime dominance. Elizabeth's sea dogs, including Drake and Hawkins, transformed England from a peripheral European kingdom into a nascent naval power. The defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 not only secured England's independence, but also established a naval tradition that would enable the later creation of the British Empire. However, the Tudor legacy also includes darker chapters. Religious persecution became a state policy, with Catholics and radical Protestants facing execution, imprisonment, and financial ruin. The establishment of the Anglican Church created religious divisions that would spark centuries of conflict. Economic challenges, including inflation caused by the debasement of currency under Henry VIII and population growth, led to significant social distress. The Tudor period witnessed dramatic changes in education and literacy. The Protestant emphasis on personal Bible reading, combined with the spread of printing, increased literacy rates. The foundation of new schools and colleges, often using wealth from dissolved monasteries, expanded educational opportunities, though primarily for males of the upper and middle classes. Tudor governance innovations permanently altered England's political landscape. The enhancement of Parliament's role, particularly in religious matters, established precedents for shared power between monarch and legislature. The development of a more centralized bureaucracy, staffed by educated professionals rather than hereditary nobles, modernized state administration. Perhaps most significantly, the Tudors established a model of monarchy that balanced authority with popular appeal. Elizabeth I's cultivation of a public image as both commanding sovereign and caring mother to her people established a template for royal public relations that monarchs still follow. The Tudor ability to project power through ceremony, art, and architecture while maintaining genuine popular support created a distinctly English style of monarchy. The period's economic changes were equally profound. The growth of foreign trade, particularly under Elizabeth, began shifting England's economy from feudal agriculture toward commercial capitalism. London's emergence as a major European commercial center established patterns of trade and finance that would prove crucial to later British economic dominance. The Tudor impact on gender roles presents a fascinating paradox. While the period saw powerful female rulers, particularly Elizabeth I, it also witnessed the consolidation of patriarchal authority in family and society. Elizabeth's success as an unmarried queen challenged contemporary gender assumptions, while simultaneously reinforcing them through her unique position as an exception to normal female roles. In conclusion, the Tudor dynasty's influence extends far beyond their 118-year reign. Their decisions and policies transformed England from a medieval kingdom on Europe's fringe into a powerful, independent nation with distinct religious, cultural, and political identities. While their methods were often brutal and their reforms caused significant social disruption, they created the foundations of modern England and, by extension, much of the English-speaking world. Their legacy lives on in England's constitutional monarchy, established church, educational institutions, and cultural traditions, making the Tudor period a crucial bridge between medieval and modern worlds. The Tudor era emerged during one of humanity's most transformative periods, coinciding with the Renaissance, the Age of Discovery, and the dawn of modern scientific thought. This remarkable epoch witnessed the collision of medieval traditions with revolutionary new ideas, fundamentally reshaping how humans understood themselves and their place in the universe. The scientific revolution gained momentum during this period, with Copernicus's heliocentric theory in 1543 challenging the thousand-year-old Ptolemaic view of the cosmos. This astronomical revelation was more than a mere scientific discovery. It triggered a profound philosophical crisis, forcing society to reconsider humanity's place in God's creation. While England initially responded cautiously to these new ideas, the seeds of scientific inquiry were firmly planted, laying the groundwork for later British contributions to science. Humanism flourished in Tudor England, transformed by Northern European interpretations of Italian Renaissance thought. Scholars like Thomas More and Roger Ascham adapted classical learning to Christian purposes, promoting education as a means of moral improvement. The Tudor court became a center of humanist learning, with Henry VIII and Elizabeth I both educated in this tradition. This intellectual movement emphasized human potential and individual dignity, while still acknowledging divine authority. Maritime exploration revolutionized geographical understanding and commercial possibilities. English voyages of discovery, though starting later than their Spanish and Portuguese counterparts, opened new trading routes and challenged traditional views of the world. Explorers like Martin Frobisher and Francis Drake not only expanded English commercial interests, but also contributed to a growing body of knowledge about navigation, cartography, and foreign cultures. The period witnessed an architectural revolution, as medieval Gothic gave way to Renaissance classicism. Under Henry VIII, English builders began incorporating Italian and French Renaissance elements into their designs, creating the distinctive Tudor style. Hampton Court Palace exemplifies this architectural transition, combining medieval English traditions with Renaissance innovations. This architectural evolution reflected broader cultural changes, as England increasingly engaged with continental European influences. In literature and language, the Tudor period marked the emergence of modern English. The standardization of printing helped stabilize the language, while translations of classical texts enriched vocabulary and literary expression. The period saw the birth of new literary forms, with authors experimenting with sonnets, blank verse, and prose styles that would influence English literature for centuries. The theater became a powerful medium for exploring new ideas and social commentary. Playwrights like Shakespeare and Marlowe created works that transcended mere entertainment, addressing philosophical questions about power, love, loyalty, and human nature. The public theater became a unique social institution, where all classes could gather to experience sophisticated dramatic art and contemporary social criticism. Technological innovations transformed daily life and commerce. Improvements in printing technology made books more accessible, contributing to rising literacy rates. Advances in metallurgy, shipbuilding, and weapons manufacture enhanced England's military and commercial capabilities. These technological changes accelerated the transition from medieval to modern economic systems. The era's religious upheavals coincided with broader intellectual changes. The Protestant Reformation, while primarily religious, encouraged individual Bible reading and personal interpretation of Scripture, promoting literacy and individual thought. This religious individualism paralleled humanist emphasis on personal dignity and capability. Trade and commerce experienced revolutionary changes. The discovery of new worlds and trading routes transformed economic possibilities. Traditional medieval guild systems began giving way to more modern commercial practices. London emerged as a major international trading center, while new financial instruments and trading companies developed to handle increasing commercial complexity. Social structures evolved as medieval feudal hierarchies gradually yielded to more fluid social arrangements. The rise of a merchant class and educated professionals created new paths to social advancement. Universities expanded their role in society, training an increasingly secular administrative class that would manage the growing bureaucracy of the modern state. The visual arts underwent significant development, with English artists incorporating Renaissance techniques and themes while maintaining distinctive national characteristics. Portrait painting, particularly under Hans Holbein the Younger, reached new levels of psychological insight and technical sophistication. The period saw the emergence of distinctly English artistic traditions that balanced continental influences with local preferences. This civilizational context made the Tudor period a crucial pivot point between medieval and modern worldviews. The era witnessed fundamental shifts in how people understood the universe, society, and themselves. While change was gradual and often contested, the Tudor period established patterns of thought and behavior that would define the modern world. The dynasty's ability to navigate and sometimes direct these changes while maintaining political stability was perhaps their greatest achievement, allowing England to emerge as a leading force in the modern world. What single decision most profoundly shaped the course of English history during the Tudor era? The actions of both Henry VIII and Elizabeth I continue to spark intense debate among historians and enthusiasts alike. When we examine the pivotal moment of Henry VIII's break with Rome, we confront one of history's most compelling what-if scenarios. Consider the break with Rome, a decision that fundamentally altered England's religious, political, and social landscape. Was this truly an act of principled conviction, or merely the result of one man's desperate desire for a male heir? The consequences were extraordinary. Monasteries dissolved, ancient traditions overturned, and a new religious identity forged for an entire nation. But what if Henry had remained within the Catholic fold? Would England have become a Catholic stronghold like Spain? Would the British Empire have developed differently? These questions invite us to explore alternative historical pathways. Elizabeth I's decisions prove equally fascinating. Her choice to remain unmarried, the famous Virgin Queen strategy, shaped both domestic and international politics. Was this a masterful political calculation, or a personal choice born of watching her father's marital chaos? How might English history have differed if Elizabeth had married and produced an heir? The Spanish match, the French courtship, or even a domestic alliance. Each possibility suggests a dramatically different future for England. The Tudor period raises provocative questions about leadership and governance. How did Henry VIII transform from the Renaissance ideal of kingship into a figure of controversy? What enabled Elizabeth I to succeed where her sister Mary failed in establishing religious stability? The contrasts between different Tudor monarchs, Henry VI's cautious pragmatism, Henry VIII's bold aggression, Elizabeth's subtle manipulation, offer fascinating studies in leadership styles and their consequences. Maritime policy under the Tudors presents another engaging topic for speculation. What if the English had not challenged Spanish naval supremacy? Would the defeat of the Spanish Armada have been possible without Elizabeth's earlier investment in the Navy? The development of English sea power under the Tudors laid the groundwork for later British naval dominance, but was this a planned strategy or a fortunate accident? The cultural flourishing under Elizabeth raises its own questions. Would Shakespeare have emerged without the specific conditions of Elizabethan England? How did the combination of political stability, economic growth, and religious settlement create the perfect environment for theatrical and literary achievement? The relationship between political circumstances and artistic creation provides rich material for discussion. Religious persecution under the Tudors prompts moral reflection. How do we judge historical figures who committed acts we now consider unconscionable? Were the religious policies of Mary and Elizabeth simply products of their time, or should they be held to higher standards? These questions challenge us to consider how we evaluate historical actions through modern ethical lenses. Economic transformations during the Tudor period invite analysis of cause and effect. Did the dissolution of the monasteries accelerate England's economic modernization, or did it simply redistribute wealth among the elite? How did Tudor policies regarding trade, currency, and land ownership shape the development of English capitalism? Social mobility during this period presents another fascinating angle. How did Tudor policies affect the rise of the middle class? Was the creation of new noble families from common stock a deliberate strategy or an unintended consequence of other policies? The social transformations of the Tudor era continue to influence class structures in modern Britain. The role of women in Tudor England offers particularly relevant discussions for contemporary audiences. How did having two female monarchs affect gender roles in English society? Why did Elizabeth succeed where Mary struggled? The contrasts between official power and social constraints for women during this period resonate with modern debates about gender and leadership. The Tudor architectural revolution raises questions about the relationship between power and visual culture. How did Tudor builders blend native traditions with Renaissance innovations? What messages did their architectural choices convey about authority and legitimacy? The surviving Tudor buildings continue to shape our image of English history. Each of these elements invites deeper exploration and debate. The Tudor period's relevance to modern discussions of power, religion, gender, and national identity makes it an inexhaustible source of engaging historical analysis. Whether examining personal motivations or broader social trends, the Tudor era offers countless entry points for meaningful historical discussion. What fascinates you most about this transformative period? Which Tudor decision do you think had the most lasting impact on world history? How would England, and indeed the world, look different if key Tudor choices had gone another way? These questions continue to intrigue historians and history enthusiasts alike, making the Tudor period an endlessly engaging subject for historical exploration and debate. Join us at Modern Age Chronicles for more fascinating analyses, curious details, and compelling debates like this one. Our next episode will delve deeper into these transformative moments that shaped not just England, but the entire world. See you in our next historical journey.